Federal government refutes claim of maize scarcity. Nigeria's Bank of Industry to get $1 billion 3-year loan from Afri-Exim Bank and Credit Suisse. And global stock markets trade mix this Wednesday but lack momentum despite positive vaccine news as China revises 2019 GDP growth lower. It's Business Express reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. Compliments of the season. I am Benny Adams, your guide. The African Export-Import Bank has announced the closing of a $1 billion facility for the Bank of Industry. The facility provides much-needed support to Nigerian businesses across key sectors and is the largest international syndicated loan to a Nigerian financial institution since the onset of the pandemic-induced economic difficulty. The transaction is jointly arranged with Credit Suisse and involved in a syndicate of 21 investors. This transaction follows a previous €1 billion syndicated facility for the Bank of Industry, which closed in March 2020. Given the current adverse market conditions, the transaction constitutes a significant achievement for the parties involved. It also demonstrates the capacity of financial institutions to continue their vital activities during the pandemic and their positive attitude to African risks. In order to overcome the challenge of large crowds visiting the NIMC enrollment centers nationwide to obtain and update their National Identification Number (NIM), the National Identity Management Commission (NIMC) has adopted booking system for NIM enrollment. A statement by the Commission signed by the head of corporate communications, Kayode Adegoke, says the Commission adopted a couple of measures to contain the spread of the virus while ensuring its services to Nigerians are not entirely interrupted. According to the statement, effective December 30th, 2020, attending to applicants will be based on booking system. For bookings, applicants are to visit any of the NIMC offices closest to them during stipulated business hours of 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Oil gained ground on Wednesday as a U.S. coronavirus fiscal aid package and a decline in crude oil inventories lifted prices. Brent crude futures rose 35 cents to $51.44 a barrel, and U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude added 30 cents to $48.30 a barrel. Analysts say oil prices have remained supported by a weaker U.S. dollar overnight. They say oil prices could gain more strength as vaccination programs around the world begin next year, allowing countries to relax restrictions on movement and business activity. The federal government has refuted claims making the rounds that the country will face scarcity of maize in 2021 as being forecast by agro-processors. The federal government and Central Bank of Nigeria believe that maize farmers are producing more than enough to meet local demands. Musa Baba Aliu has the details.
Nigeria is one of the world's largest producers and consumers of maize, also known as corn. Research reveals that maize is the most important food crop on high demand in Nigeria, followed by rice and wheat. Apart from human consumption of the crop, Most of it is used in agriculture as animal and fish feeds, as well as in the production of starch and syrup. Available statistics by the IITA, Central Bank of Nigeria, and farmers associations indicate that annually, Nigerian farmers produce about 33 million metric tons of maize.
Before now, the yields used to be about 2 tons per hectare. Now, with high yield seeds and the support of the Central Bank of Nigeria, smallholder farmers across the country are able to produce at least 4 tons per hectare to improve their yield and at the end of the day improve profitability for the farmers.
The agro-processors, especially poultry feed producers, are complaining over the high cost and scarcity of the commodity.
We produced 20 million tons last year, and the actual demand for all the maize processors, human consumption is just 8 million tons.
While refuting claims of the scarcity, farmers under the Anchor Growers program say there is enough maize in the country and also plans to commence dry season farming this year. In Abuja, Musa Baba Aliyu.
Let's see prices on the global commodities markets this Wednesday. President Muhammadu Buhari has reiterated his earlier directive to the Central Bank of Nigeria not to grant foreign exchange for food importation. He also promised that his administration would, from early next year, keep an eye on the rising cost of foodstuffs in the country. This was at a meeting with the Presidential Economic Advisory Council at the State House, Abuja, yesterday. As we review some of the activities that shape the economy in 2020, we bring you the discussion we had on the program with an economist, Yusheu Aliu, on the ban on forex for food and fertilizer importation in September this year.
There are about 41 items which the central bank put a restriction of foreign exchange, meaning that in order to protect industry, it is a protectionism instrument used to protect local industries so as to boost production locally and also to save a lot of the going away of our resources to other economies, including jobs.
This order has been there. At first, I think we had 40 items. Is it 41?
Yeah.
They now moved to 43 items.
Yeah.
Yet, there were violations here and there, allegedly. Would this enforcement end it, or was there nothing like that?
You see, that you cannot prevent cartel in anything. That's why you have normal market and you have black market. And at the same time, there are other provisions that are likely closer to that policy, which some may use as an excuse to access foreign exchange in order to have other benefit. But the truth of the matter is that no economy can have self-sufficiency when you don't check your consumption pattern, especially when you have the capacity. Nigeria has the capacity to produce many things. If you check Nigerian economy before independence, it was a very robust economy. It is an economy that depends on itself. It is also the economy that other economies depend on it. So, but the attitudinal change, our attitude changes because the policymakers and the politicians, including the military, redirected the economy because of the influx of foreign dollars. From what? From petrodollars. How? Because Nigeria was among countries that are producing. So, now that our population is growing, and there is no way when you are growing population, you have a population, for instance, 60% of 40 to 60% of population of West Africa is concentrated in Nigeria, and then you now sit without producing what you eat. It's going to be a catastrophe, and it's not healthy, and it is going to backfire if it is not checked.
We have a large population, and this population is growing by the day. And government has done a whole lot, particularly in rice production, courtesy the Uncle Borrowers program. Farmers have been empowered, rice farmers have been empowered. We're having this commodity in the market, yet we have scarcity and we're experiencing inflation. What is the reason for this?
When you mention inflation, you have to check also the situation the economy is facing, the aggregate, macroeconomic aggregate of the economy. The economy is deficient. It's deficient because it is facing a very serious issue as far as economics is concerned, that is stagflation. Stagflation is a situation where you have persistent increase in general price level, and you also have increase in unemployment. This is, if you check the statistics of National Bureau of Statistics, about 13.9 million Nigerians youth are unemployed. This is a high number. When you check the structure of the population, and at the same time you check the alternative where they can be employed. So I think whether anchor borrowers or any other scheme of the government, what we need to do, there are policies that you put on ground, and there is also measures that you look into. For instance, when you want to boost production and you decided to contain the import of certain goods, let me give an example of rice. So the food security does not mean only producing the food in the economy. Food security also entails a situation where the price mechanism is distributing those goods to different households.
This year, 2020, was dominated by the COVID-19 pandemic, the crash in commodity prices, and the global recession. The federal government in the first quarter of the year bowed to long-standing pressure to restructure the downstream sector of the Nigerian oil industry through the removal of fuel subsidy. And so the Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency, PPPRA, stopped fixing the pump price of petrol. Business Express spoke with Olasupo Agbaje, General Manager, Gas and Renewable Energy of the PPPRA.
It has always been our desire to see this market get to this level. We've been on this for quite a while. It's been a long time coming, but I think this is the time that the downstream sector, specifically as it relates to PMS and other products, will actually experience blossoming because marketers are free to bring in these products and sell.
Okay, can you give us the exact prices that you have set?
So now, for the month of July, we have provided a guiding price. It's a band between 140.8 and 143.8. That's the guiding price for the month of July.
So very quickly, Nigerians were very happy when the pump price of petrol came down to 123.
Yeah.
And then they now have to, bear with having to buy at 143 or 140, between 140 and 143, like you said. Many Nigerians are not happy about it. What exactly necessitated this action?
Well, you see, these are some of the issues associated with the liberalization process. What you have seen, we have seen prices come down from as high as 145 to 125. We have seen it move from 125 to 123. We have seen prices move to 121, and so that is the beauty of the regulation. We no longer fix prices. We set guiding price based on market fundamentals, based on the forces of demand and supply, and these prices are put together following a very tedious process that is very transparent and open to the world to see.
Is this what Nigeria needs at this time, being that Nigerians are still, battling with the impact of the coronavirus?
Absolutely, more than any other time. I think this is what we need at this time.
Okay.
Because over the years, we have had to expend billions and even at times trillions of naira on petroleum subsidy. These are monies that would have properly gone into the health sector, into the education sectors. And so there are very many other sectors that are crying for this. And as a result of this subsidy regime, we have had issues of transparency, issues of corruption, issues of accountability. In addition to that, we have had a situation whereby the downstream sector as a whole, growth has been largely stultified because operators cannot go out there and bring in products. So you have potentials for job creation, you have potentials for value creation, you have potential for expansion in infrastructure and facilities all over the country. Mr. President has promised Nigerians, I'm going to provide 100 million jobs for you in the next 4 years. These are the sectors that will contribute to this provision. So what we have done is to unleash the potentials that the downstream sector has for the operators to follow. And so Nigeria will be the better for it at the end of the day.
The year 2020 also came with massive investment of funds in different sectors of the economy by the federal government to tackle the impact of the coronavirus targeted at households and micro and small enterprises. One of such is the intervention for the broadcast industry. We had Professor Armstrong Idachaba, Acting Director General, National Broadcasting Corporation, NB.
Into the intricacies of the intervention for the broadcast sector in Nigeria.
Again, thank you very much. I think that the motivation, the purpose and circumstances that actually guaranteed the federal government's thought for a waiver intervention were well elucidated by the Honorable Minister in the background report you gave, and the gentleman who also gave an interview. Point is that yes, the Nigerian broadcast industry, especially during the period of the pandemic, actually showed uncommon patriotism, such that they virtually abdicated regular programming. They made huge sacrifices, coming to work morning till night under very difficult conditions. And many broadcast stations, even on their own, created jingles, advertorials on their own with their little finances, just to keep the population enlightened during the period. We found that very, very commendable. But more importantly, we also knew that because revenues were not coming in, most of the operations were becoming hugely endangered. We had heard reports about several who were reducing broadcast hours. There were those who were planning to downsize some of their staff. And the federal government, in its wisdom, thought that it is key that the broadcast industry be rejuvenated in a way that it remains central to all the ancillary facets for national development.
Now, talking about still making the media relevant in a unique time like this, there's talk about the 2-month licensing fee waiver granted terrestrial stations in the country. Could you shed more light on that?
Yes, apparently that has now turned out to be an interim measure because we didn't want to bother broadcast stations with the responsibility of bothering about license fees at the time that they were dedicating so much time and energy and resources, you know, into performing a fundamental national objective of keeping the citizenry enlightened. So we, between the periods of March and April, gave out those 2-month waiver to all broadcast stations. But we also found out that that apparently wasn't enough. Of course, even preceding the pandemic, many broadcast stations had actually made the appeal, you know, for a reconsideration of license fees. Pay special notes to stations operating in conflict reading zones, especially in the northeast and the northwest, areas of insecurity where broadcast operations have become hugely threatened. And it was apparent that they needed to get some kind of intervention one way or the other.
Let me come in here a little bit.
Yeah.
Talking about interventions, the Central Bank of Nigeria has extended palliatives to other sectors, businesses within the country to help cushion the effects of the situation Nigeria has found itself in. Is there a case for the media, like you highlighted in what you said a few seconds ago, that the media have been in the forefront as much as the media? So is there a place for the media industry
Yes, I must place on record the efforts of the Honorable Minister for Information and Culture, Alhaji Mohammed, who for some time now has been navigating, so to say, and trying to find any opportunity that he could eventually create for the media industry or the creative industry generally to enjoy some kind of intervention. I'm aware that he made presentations with the CBN, even at the level of the Presidential Post-COVID Effect Implementation Committee. The Honorable Minister also made some key recommendations, and gladly some of these things are coming in place.
Away from the discussions now to the equities market, Nigeria beat US and others to end the year 2020 as the best performing stock market at the close of trading this Wednesday. The NSE All-Share Index appreciated by 1.03% to close the week at 39,512.31 basis points, with market capitalization at 20.6 trillion naira, a total of 372 million shares worth 11.5 billion naira in 5,186 deals exchanged hands on the floor of the exchange. The most active stocks were UBA, Dangote, and Zenith Bank. Asian shares jumped to record high as investors bet on healthier 2021, as market sentiment generally remains mixed. Bosadable has a summary of market activities.
As the world counts down to 2021, investors on the African continent, like other parts of the world, are taking precaution against the second wave of variant coronavirus, which has continued to hamper on investor sentiment. Early trade on the African market opened mostly bullish as investors show optimism of an end to 2020. U.S. stock index futures were little change in overnight trading on Tuesday as markets tried to reclaim record highs. Contrast tied to the Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 36 points. S&P 500 futures gained 0.12%, while Nasdaq 100 futures were flat. Stocks in Asia Pacific were mixed in Wednesday early trading after major indices on Wall Street snapped their multi-day winning streaks overnight. Meanwhile, the dollar weakened against other major currencies. Shanghai Composite gained 1.05% to 3,414.45. Hang Seng Index rose 2.18% as of its final hour of trading, while Nikkei slipped 0.45% to close at 27,444.17. European stocks also traded higher on Wednesday amid more positive vaccine news in the region. Bossday Able, Business Express.
The dollar depreciated to its lowest in more than 2 years in Asian trading on Wednesday, and riskier currencies surged. Let's see the exchange rate in the currency market. With that, we end this edition of Business Express. Be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. You can also communicate with us on Twitter. The handle is NTA News Now, and the hashtag is BizX. Business Express returns Thursday at 9:30 a.m. I am Benny Adams saying, stay safe.